Hi, I'm Alan Ross. We're here at the RE Plus Conference and Exposition. We're talking to thought leaders about the future of the energy economy. So join us and enjoy. My next guest is Vincent Weyl. Vincent is the Senior VP of Growth for Ioteca, but welcome.
It's good to be here, thanks.
Tell me a little bit about your background and your role when you started at Ioteca and just what got you involved in this industry.
Okay, so it's been a long journey. I trained as a...
No. Mine's a long journey. I'm old enough to have a long journey. You have an intermediate journey right now. You're still a young man.
Let's call it an intermediate journey.
Okay.
But I trained as an electronics engineer, focusing on networking and telecommunications. I have a career of 20 years in telecommunications, and one of my last positions was working on a 5G and IoT ecosystem, so bringing companies together to solve problems on transportation, not necessarily electric, right? Smart cities, and the power grid. And interestingly, EV charging is right at the intersection of all three domains.
So now we know what Ioteca does, EV charging, but you do other things. I want to go to your background first of all. I want to talk about the changes that you've seen in your intermediate career in the industry. The changes that you've seen, we seem to be at that inflection point, as people talk about, that all of a sudden green, renewable is taking off. The war in Ukraine, the government spending in the United States now happening all over, more and more government spending. Talk about where you think the industry is today.
Okay, so if I may go back to my answer on the first question now, because there's a couple of things I've learned in my telecom career. One is it's not about technology. You can have the best technology in the world. If it's not meeting the user's needs or the market's not the right time, you're not going to be successful.
Okay, we've got to say it again. It's not about the technology, it's about meeting the market's needs. Perfect, excellent.
That's my number one lesson. The number two is nobody can do it alone. It takes an ecosystem, it takes a village. I used to sell communication systems to hospitals. If I did not work with the guy who does the nurse call system, I couldn't sell. I couldn't sell to a hotel if I did not support the integration with the property management system.
Okay.
And in everything we do, and as we'll discuss, and I'll respond to the question about the trends, you'll see that it takes a lot of companies working together to solve the challenges that we face with.
Yeah.
So when I look at where we are, the power industry at large, right? I see three major trends and then another one that's underlying all of that, and they're all connected, right? It's a connected world. The first one is decarbonization, right? Moving away from fossil fuel, oil, gas, coal, and so that means investing in renewables. We see that happening. Better late than never, I will say. So that's number one. Number two is it's also linked because it's just not practical to build large solar power plant, or there's only so many sites where you can put windmills. So what we see is a move from centralized power plants to decentralized distributed energy generation. And solar, storage, even EV chargers are distributed energy renewables. What this means now is for our grid operators who were used to getting power from one place and distributing it to many people, then they need to change and getting power from multiple locations, aggregating, orchestrating all these flows and making it work, which means they need to build a communications infrastructure to control and manage all that. And that's a lot of investment and it's taking a lot of time. And then the third big trend that I see is the electrification of transportation. I mean, you know that most of the largest car makers around the world have announced that they're shifting completely to electric vehicles. We see adoption in Europe reaching sky-high levels, 75% in some Nordic countries. In the US, we're getting there. It's tremendous improvement over last year. You've heard about California looking to ban sales of IC.
We're in California.
Exactly.
And, my son bought his first electric car.
Great, congratulations. So, and this is good because it's creating additional needs and load on the grid, but it's also providing a resource that, if properly managed and controlled, can help with some of the grid services. So as you can see, all these three trends are connected, right? There's not one that can be addressed separately. They all need to work together. And my last comment was, this is a mission critical infrastructure. And you mentioned the war in Ukraine. We live in a world that unfortunately is unsafe. So all of this needs to be very well protected and cyber secure.
And weather changes too. We need it to be resilient and we need it to be reliable. And I'm a reliability engineer by training, and we see so much unreliability throughout a lot of the system, that all it takes is one bad storm and you knock out the power completely.
Yes.
So we got a lot that we got to do. You said there was a fourth that was coming. What's that?
The fourth was the cybersecurity, which was common to all the. Yes.
So how does Ioteca play in that? Which segment of those 3, 4 are you really involved in the most? You can't be in all of them.
You can be in all of them. So I think as a company, what we do is provide a platform. So we're a B2B company. We help our customers go to market faster and in a more cost-effective way to bring solutions to the market.
And who are your customers?
So our customers range from automakers, people that build vehicles that need to have these charging controllers to communicate and interface with the charging infrastructure. People that build chargers, again, they need to communicate with vehicles and the back end. There are people that operate some of this charging infrastructure, people that provide energy services. So we have an end-to-end platform, portfolio of products and services that enable the EV charging infrastructure, ranging from the silicon, charging controllers, modules, all the way to cloud services. And then depending on who we work with, we pick either one, like we create a white label level 2 chargers, or the entire portfolio.
How long has Ioteca been in business?
So Ioteca has been launched in 2016.
Okay.
It's been launched as a spin-off of ST Micro. So you'll see that our management team has been together for a couple of decades.
Okay, yeah.
But yes, 2016. So
we've talked about some of the changes that are taking place. What are the big challenges of implementing all of that integrated whole, a holistic system? What are the challenges that we're facing?
So it's interesting, there are many. I would single one out, which I call the interoperability. And you said you speak the reliability and availability language, and I think that's very important. There used to be, and a year ago we'd have this conversation, we'd talk about range anxiety, right? People scared, hey, if I buy an EV, will I have enough battery power to go where I want to go? And I think with the latest advances in batteries, it's no longer, you have 200 plus miles range on every single car that's coming out. So the anxiety has moved to charging anxiety. Will I be able to charge? If I drive my car to this charger, will it work? I mean, will I be able to? And that's real, right? You see a lot of horror stories in the media of people not being able to charge on their road trips. There have been some studies that done in California where they say that 25% of the time people were not able to complete a charging transaction. Doesn't mean the charger is faulty. It could be the payment system. It could be the credentials with a network provider. But it's creating a very poor driver experience. So the challenge here is we need all the different actors of the value chain, the car, the charging infrastructure, the network provider, the mobility provider, and even potentially the grid services if you're doing if there's a demand response or something that prevents you from charging when you need to.
Yeah.
I mean, you saw the power cutoff in California and the announcement, which, on people please don't charge after 4 p.m., which was not the best signal. But all of this needs to work together, and the only way we can make that work together is one, working with open standards. So it starts with physical connectors, it's communication technologies like the ISO 15118 standard, which establishes communication between car and the charger, communication to the back end, all the way to communication to the grid. So, and there's a lot of companies involved. It's important that they speak the same language. And then, as you know, speaking the same language is not enough. We also need to go one step beyond, which is interoperability, meaning testing that we can actually understand each other.
Are you part of IEEE?
Personally, I'm not, but some other companies are. Yes.
Okay, because one of the big things that's happening with a lot of different societies within IEEE, kind of probably being led by the ComSoc, the Communication Society, is interoperability. But even there, we are siloed. Power Energy System, ComSoc, Communication Society, IAC. You got 17 different societies that are already, each of them having their own standard. And now we're talking about a standard for interoperability, which is interesting.
Yeah, it's important because standards alone, as you just say, is not enough. You can pick a standard for everything. It needs to be able to communicate end to end. I will add that you mentioned IAC, you didn't mention ISO, which is another standard organization. Happens to be international, which is a positive. And we are part. Our company is a member of an organization called CHARIN, Charging Interface Ecosystem, which is promoting the combined charging system standard, which is a connector, and on top of it, a protocol which is the ISO IEC 15118 that I mentioned earlier. And this particular organization, which is combining people that build vehicles, people that build chargers, people that operate them, is hosting regular events for interoperability testing, which are called testivals. and they're organized in Asia, in Europe, and there's actually one coming up in the US, in Portland.
And it's called
October. The organization's called CHARIN, Charging Interface, right?
Okay.
And the event's called Festival.
Okay. And
which you have to be careful how you pronounce it.
Okay. I'm not going to try. Okay. I want to go back to CHARIN. That's a not-for-profit?
Correct.
Arranged
yes.
for interoperability for charging infrastructure, you said, or interface?
Yes, and it goes beyond interoperability. They actively worked at the standard definition.
Okay.
And if you look at the latest news, latest announcement of this organization was the megawatt charging system. And I don't know if you've heard about that.
No.
This is a standard that is able to deliver megawatt level of energy, and that's to fuel large, trucks.
Yeah, yeah. That's okay. I've never heard of the organization, but I will look them up, and I will find out about that. You said another event's coming up soon?
Yeah, I believe that the director of CHARIN, the executive director of CHARIN North America, is attending the event. So if you want me to make an introduction,
find him and bring him here, and then we'll do an interview with him or her.
Her, yes,
her.
Absolutely.
Okay, yeah. That would be good. A woman in power systems, as you see behind
Exactly. She's very active for women in energy, women in EV charging. So she loves that.
What's her name?
It's Erica Myers.
Erica Myers. Okay, we'll look for her. But anyway, thank you for joining us. Appreciate it very much.
It's been
Vincent.
a pleasure. Thanks,
okay. All right. So all of these interviews that we have conducted have been sponsored by the people behind me. The first one is the Grid Edge Conference and Exposition, which takes place in April 2023 in San Diego. The IEEE PES Grid Edge Conference and Exposition has been a long time in the making. This will be our first one, and it will be a delight. I can already tell you that we've had more papers, more panelists than we could possibly hold, and the conference itself is going to be brilliant. The second organization sponsoring us is H2Scan. H2Scan is ubiquitous in the transformer industry as the best. It's kind of like Intel, it's inside. H2Scan is a hydrogen sensing technology that is patented, that has been around for the last 20 years. It really came on strong as transformer hydrogen became a problem. DGA recognized by IEEE. And I just thank the people at H2Scan. They are also in electrolyzers, fuel cells, battery storage, but hydrogen safety is incredibly important. They're in refining, in processing, so H2Scan, thank you. Lastly, RE+. We are at the Renewable Energy Plus Conference and Exposition, and as we close this one out, I want to thank them for allowing us to conduct these interviews here, for allowing us to be part of their incredible conference. It's been enormous. There have been 27,000 people that have attended this conference, and you can tell the energy, the excitement that's taking place within the renewables industry, so thank you, RE+. It's been a delight to do these interviews, and I hope you've enjoyed them.